Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? Hope you survived the snowy waste, depending on which part of Pennsylvania you're in. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the first ever webcast presentation by the Pennsylvania Association of Mutual Insurance Companies. And on behalf of Ron Gallagher, the president of the Pennsylvania Association of Mutual Insurance Companies, I just want to tell you that you are very welcome. We're glad to have you as an audience. We also encourage your participation. If you have some comments or thoughts or questions that you want to pass along, please feel free to engage in the chat feature, and then we'll try to get to them. And failing that, if we don't have time, we'll certainly follow up to try to get you an answer to your question. Now, by way of background, first of all, I'm Vince Phillips, Phillips Associates, and I've been in Harrisburg for some time, and I was really honored to be asked to host this event today. I think this is the harbinger of a great many good programs to come, and a sign of the outreach potential that PAMIC has in relating to its members and to those in both the private and public sector that would benefit from these sorts of programs. Now, PAMIC, by way of background, is a trade association. It's been around for 108 years, and it represents the mutual insurance industry. Now, I will tell you that it's sponsored. I want to give sponsorship their due, and I think we owe kudos to General Reinsurance Corporation, Munich Re and Hartford Steam Boiler, Guy Carpenter, Mutual Boiler RE, and Ryan Labs Asset Management, along, of course, with the member companies that comprise the Pennsylvania Association of Mutual Insurance Companies. Now, PAMIC, and this is the infomercial for the association, so I want to pay special attention to this. But PAMIC is a trade association that represents the mutual industry. Now, what does that mean? It means, first of all, that it represents the industry to public sector policy decision makers, both on the regulatory side and the legislative side. And it also offers educational opportunities for member companies and their employees. And programs might involve their business operations, or it might be a cutting edge issue such as what to do about Uber or Airbnb or whatever. And I would encourage you to visit the PAMIC website, pamic.org, and learn a little bit more about what PAMIC has to offer, and learn about the resources that can actually benefit you in the context of your business lives. Now, a couple things coming up. In spring of this year, March 8th, at the Nittany Lion Inn, PAMIC will have a spring conference, quote unquote, the new normal through a new lens. Kind of a catchy title, but a nice catch-all when you consider that we have yet to discover the potentials or the pitfalls of drone insurance. In addition, the PAMIC Political Action Committee, PAC, is having a session featuring the chairperson of the House Insurance Committee, Tina Pickett. And if you are available, I think that would be a very insightful presentation, as Representative Pickett is a very thoughtful person in the way she presents views on insurance and on the way she's able to listen to the concerns that you may have up. Now, during the live broadcast, you're going to see some information on the screen board behind, and it may tell you a little bit about the program or a little bit about that PAC presentation. And, of course, recordings of this are available and will be archived. There's also a virtual insurance school, and the teacher for that is Jack Yanofsky, formerly with the Pennsylvania Insurance Department. And I would encourage you to visit the website for future offerings of that. And of course, we would want to see your participation if you would. So please subscribe to our channel. Now, PAMIC's also available. We've got a Twitter lead, we've got a LinkedIn page, and believe it or not, we actually email people. My middle girl told me when I emailed her the other day, said, "Dad, I can't believe you emailed me. That is so 1990s, but so be it." Whatever the medium is, PAMIC wants to stay in touch with you and, of course, get your advice and counsel on things that are important to the industry. Now, before I introduce our guest for today, I want to point out again that since this is a live broadcast, you have the chance to participate, which means that if you have a comment, question, observation, whatever, please make sure you use the chat feature and send it in to us. Now, I just received word that the audio is slightly off, and so I want to apologize to you for any inconvenience this may cause. Our operators are standing by, technical difficulties. Perhaps you've seen this program before, it's hard to say. Now, in terms of today's program, it's my honor to present to you David Buono. Dave is the consumer liaison for the Pennsylvania Insurance Department, and today we're going to learn a bit about his world, what he sees in his role as consumer liaison, and also learn a little bit about him personally so you can kind of put a face to the name. Because I haven't talked to him about it, and I'm certainly not his press secretary, but I think given the success of his outreach, his is a name that you will see occasionally in both media, both print, social, electronic, etc. And you will most certainly be aware of some of the educational offerings that he brings to the table to help people better understand insurance. Now, Dave, welcome to the program. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate the invite to attend.
Well, I must tell you, I looked over your bio, and I see that you're here from Kentucky, and that you have worked for Progressive Insurance. So it's kind of nice that you know a little bit about the property casualty side of the industry. But the question folks really want to know is, have you met Flo?
Have I met? That is a question I get from everybody. Unfortunately, I have not met Flo. I did have the privilege of meeting the people that created Flo, but sad to say I haven't met her.
Flo, if you're in the sound of my voice, I want to make sure that you participate in the chat feature because Dave wants to meet you in the worst way. Up there, was that okay?
That was good.
All right,
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Although I'm disconcerted the fact that I'm not the first one to ask you that question.
No.
Now, in Kentucky, though, you were a regional manager for Progressive. So what entailed your responsibilities?
Sure. My roles and responsibilities when I was in Kentucky is I had the privilege of pretty much managing the entire state when it came to their claims operation. There were different structures, but my organization, if you had a claim, were the folks who were helping. I had multiple managers and supervisors as well as my claim representatives. We handled anything from fires and thefts to boats and RVs to motorcycles to auto to commercial auto. So that in a nutshell is what we did. I also had the privilege of working very closely with the Kentucky Department of Insurance because as you are managing claims, a lot of times folks will reach out to the department, so I had a good relationship with them.
So what was the quirkiest claim you had to deal with? And I bet I'm not the first person to ask you that question either.
No, the quirkiest claim, and this actually wasn't in Kentucky, because I did spend some years in Baltimore City and in the surrounding areas. The quirkiest claim that I had actually involved monkeys and an RV. So they were going through the Busch Gardens animal area, and I guess the monkeys enjoyed all the lights and of the RV, and they decided to attack it. And I learned a very valuable lesson about how strong monkeys are when it comes to their ability to pick off all the lights and tear the siding off of the RV. So that was probably the quirkiest. Was that quirky?
That was quirky enough for me.
You can remember that one.
Let's see, now, would that classify under animal bite claim or collision? Well, not really collision.
It's not really a collision. It didn't hit an object.
It's either fish, flesh, nor foul, but c'est la vie. Okay, that wins the Quirky Award for the week, and I want to thank you.
It was a unique scenario, yes.
Now, my understanding, though, is that you're actually a Pennsylvania native.
I am.
You're actually returning to the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
And you grew up in where, Hanover?
Hanover, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So is it nice to be back?
It is nice to be back.
Yeah.
It's all of our families around here, so it's wonderful to be back near family. This central Pennsylvania is a wonderful area. Actually, the state of Pennsylvania is a wonderful place to live. Central Pennsylvania, being that this is where I grew up, it's fun to see a lot of the different high schools that you played against in sports, and it just feels like home.
Well, and it must be nice to come back to the snow, because I know down in Kentucky you probably miss that in ways you can't begin to explain, or at least not audibly on this program today.
Well, I can tell you the difference that I can notice from Kentucky to Pennsylvania is Kentucky is actually very good at clearing the roads. Pennsylvania, I'm sorry. It's very good at clearing the roads. Kentucky is not so good because they don't have a lot of snow. So 6 inches will shut the city down. We're here 3 feet, and for the most part, everybody did a pretty good job.
Well, the snowplows did a good job on my driveway. It allowed me to shovel and get lots of practice. But,
Yeah.
But now, question for you.
Sure.
Why does the Pennsylvania Insurance Department need a consumer liaison?
Well, you know what? That's a great question. One of the main objectives that Commissioner Miller has is to make sure that the consumers know that we exist. While we do have our newsletters or our press releases, a lot of times consumers don't know we're here. A consumer liaison for me, a lot of people are confused about, are you an advocate or what are you? And, I view my role as someone that is going to assist consumers with understanding insurance, create educational materials that help them navigate health insurance or auto insurance or life insurance. So those are things that, a liaison does. Also, one of the great situations that I've been involved in recently is with the balance billing, working with consumers to learn about balance billing, to understand how it's impacting them, and to bring people together to try to come up with a solution.
Time out. What is balance billing?
What is balance billing? Balance billing is you go to the doctor for your for a routine procedure that you have. You believe that you are in network because you went to the network hospital, and
In-network means that you have a preferential rate with the insurance carrier reimbursement, right?
Correct.
Okay.
You believe that you're in network, and what you find out is you need anesthesiology, and you didn't know it, but the anesthesiologist isn't in the network, and you receive a bill that you weren't expecting because you believed as a consumer that you were doing everything right to make sure that your health insurance was involved, and you have a surprise that comes in the means of a bill. So that's what balance billing
Okay.
is.
And so that's a priority of the commissioner to make sure consumers are aware of the practice.
Aware of the practice, educate consumers on what balance billing is, and then also look into different ways that we can work together to try to create a solution to balance billing. And by working together, that includes insurers and the consumers and the producers, and I had mentioned anesthesiology. It's the entire group working together to try to figure out how to best assist consumers.
So there's kind of a bully pulpit involved with your position to communicate the commissioner's views on certain issues.
I would say that...
Or is your role a little larger than that?
I would say that, in regards to, well, what do you mean by bully pulpit?
Well, bully pulpit means if you don't have a strong budget, then use media to get your point of view across. And bully pulpit, just a Teddy Roosevelt phrase, so probably bad, you don't look at all like Teddy Roosevelt. But it's the idea of using a forum or a platform to enunciate the views of the entity, the department, the commissioner.
I would say that part of the responsibilities are to be able to communicate with the public. I would say in the past, I'm sure we could have done better with certain communications or certain educations or certain ways of joining individual groups together. So part of my responsibilities is to work with those groups to figure out what is the best way to communicate, what is the best way to educate, what is the best way to assist consumers.
Well, that suggests that there's two different paths, and this is just me talking rather than you talking.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if that's the way to do it, then one track would be identifying who the stakeholders are, who the interested parties, and working through them. Hopefully, they disseminate the department message, and the other would be some type of direct outreach to the public. Am I on?
I feel that's fair.
Okay. So, given those two, where do you feel the majority of your time will lay?
I believe that the majority of my time will, go ahead, Vince.
Oh, just been given another announcement. I understand there is still an audio timing problem. Technical staff is hard at work and trying to correct this problem. So again, I apologize for any inconvenience this may cause.
All right, now where were we?
Well, you were, for those of you who couldn't hear because of the audio difficulties, he said some amazing things, I have to tell you.
It's fantastic.
But failing that, we're talking about how you conduct public liaison through stakeholder groups that have an interest in specific policies or whatever coming from the department versus a more generally tuned consumer-oriented educational effort. And I posed the question, is there kind of a bent as to which way you see the position and your responsibilities?
No, I honestly view the position as I need to be able to work with both parties, because as a liaison, you're bridging that communication or that education or the gap that may exist. So the liaison I view as an individual that can work with PAMIC, talk with PAMIC about that being a stakeholder, but can also work with the consumers, educate the consumers. So I really view it almost, if you were going to say 50-50, almost a 50-50, where I would be, stakeholders are very important to me because, in regards to balance billing, we were just talking about that. we had to reach out to many stakeholders, because if we're trying to create a solution where all parties are involved, you not only can go from consumer, but you also need the parties involved that can actually help us create a solution to the problem.
Okay.
So that's where I look at it going both.
So it's both a consultative thing where you're trying to get opinions of the stakeholder groups to help the department flush out a position or think something through, as well as asking them to disseminate department viewpoints to whoever their membership might be.
Correct.
Okay. Now, one of the things that has particularly intrigued me
Sure.
is the commissioner's background.
Mm-hmm.
And to our audience, the commissioner has a studied background as Director of Insurance for Oregon, where she concentrated on health insurance reform there. Then she was tapped to go to Washington to work for the Department of HHS to implement the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act state-based exchanges. And then she had a stint for a law firm, and then she came to Pennsylvania. So I have to tell you, when she came here, I thought she was going to be more oriented, kind of health insurance oriented, and that would be her policy focus.
Okay.
And I know she's interested in it because that's her background.
Sure.
And then I noted that she was appointed as the chairperson of the Property Casualty Committee
Mm-hmm.
for the entire National Association of Insurance Commissioners.
Yeah.
Which means that, first of all, I did not understand the extent of her background in other lines of insurance, and also that told me that if the NAIC trusts her with that important responsibility, then that adds to her credibility as a commissioner.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. Commissioner Miller, when you talk about health and when you talk about property and casualty, the pleasure of working for Commissioner Miller is I believe that the focus is on the consumer. So you had mentioned to me earlier when we were speaking about flood insurance or about balanced billing or about the widow's penalty or, yeah.
Widow's penalty? Tell them what that is.
Well, in regards to the widow's penalty, that would be where we had found that there was a potential that some carriers out there, if someone would pass away, that after they became a widow, their insurance rates would increase.
Widow and widower?
Widow
So
and widower.
surviving spouse, right? Okay.
Surviving spouse, yes.
Now, is that just personal lines, property casualty, or is that?
That is
other
where
lines
we
as well?
addressed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, sorry to digress, because
No,
you're in the middle of
thank
something,
you.
but I want to make
Yeah.
sure that everybody knew what
Absolutely.
you're talking about.
Sure.
You're not, I like the fact that you're not real strong on the jargon.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make, if I catch a phrase like that, I want to make
Sure.
sure that folks know exactly what you're referring to.
Absolutely.
So, in terms of property casualty issues,
Yeah.
given her responsibility, shortly after she was named that, the commissioner testified before a subcommittee of the House Financial Services Committee on private sector flood insurance.
Mhm.
Now, I know there's the federal program, the National Flood Insurance Program.
Correct.
Can you tell me about this private flood insurance market? Is it first of all, is it viable? Secondly, is it penetrating the marketplace at all?
Is it viable? Yes. We're looking at surplus lines and private insurance. There is a market out there for consumers. As you know, NFIP premiums have increased over the years, and there are some consumers that are really struggling.
That would be an understatement, right?
It's an understatement.
Okay.
They have increased, and that puts some consumers in a difficult position because some of the increases, comparing to the house, could be close to an additional mortgage. That might be an exaggeration, but there's money there.
Well, first of all, though, are those increases actuarially justified of the National Flood Insurance Program? Because that was the context of various oversight hearings that the Senate Environmental Resources and Energy Committee had, and they really questioned the methodology that the NFIP used to warrant some of those premium increases.
As the consumer liaison, those are the type of things that, I understand what you're saying, and I've read what you're saying, I've heard what you're saying, but those are usually the things that I don't necessarily get into extreme detail with in regards to saying whether they should or shouldn't.
Okay.
I'm a state regulator.
And they're the federal
I'm not
program.
the NFIP regulator.
Okay.
So I'd hate to form an opinion one way or the other in
Okay.
regards to that. But I do believe, with those surplus lines and with the private insurance, it will be a viable option for consumers. Now I don't foresee them taking on the entire market that the NFIP does.
Okay.
But I do believe that we'll be able to help some folks, and I do believe that consumers will appreciate the assistance.
So let's suppose I'm a consumer.
Yeah.
And I believe that I'm in the market for flood insurance, either because the bank tells me to,
Mm-hmm.
or because I see water creeping up the driveway. Kind of an adverse selection sort of thing.
Yeah.
I only need it when I know I'm really going to need it.
Right.
So, in order to access the private flood insurance market
Mhm.
as an alternative to the National Flood Insurance Program,
Sure.
how do I, as a consumer, access that market?
Over the next couple of weeks, we're actually going to be updating our consumers with ways to contact the parties that can assist them.
Oh, excellent.
It's actually going to be on our webpage. We're in the process of updating our flood information as we speak, and we're going to have an announcement soon that's going to provide everybody with that information. I'll be sure to get that to you.
Please do, and also could you tell everyone what your website address is so that if they're so inclined they can go to that and find the primary information?
Absolutely, it's www.insurance.pa.gov.
So insurance.pa.gov?
You got it.
Okay.
Absolutely, and
Well,
then what else?
I wonder what would happen if I Googled insurance.pa.gov. I suspect I'd find you there too.
I bet you'll find us.
Okay.
I bet you will find us, and we are also on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay.
So you can follow us and tweet, like us. Is that what it is? You know you're on Facebook, Vince. Don't look at me like that. Come on.
Well, yeah, we're friends. I think I remember this. Okay. Although I have to tell you though that in terms of accessing that flood insurance market, though,
Sure.
I remember reading somewhere that even though it's a private sector insurance product,
Mhm.
that it's a surplus lines product, which means it's in the category of those where it's kind of hard to find regular admitted carrier product. And that means that someone's got to go to a surplus lines licensee or a surplus lines broker in order to access that.
Mhm.
And that also means that the retail producer, that is the agent down the street that's trying to help someone, that they would have to go through a lengthy declination process to go to the admitted market and have the admitted market saying, no, we can't really help you, and then they go to the surplus lines. Now, does private sector flood insurance work the same way? Or can they go to that market directly through a surplus lines licensee?
Well, what we've done to make it easier for consumers is our webpage is actually going to list the surplus lines, and it's also going to list the private insurance. So they're going to have the ability to contact, as well as the NFIP. Because our role in this, in explaining the flood insurance, isn't to direct consumers to one place or the other. Our goal is to educate the consumers to what is available to them.
Okay.
So, so those private will be listed. The surplus lines will be listed. NFIP will be listed.
But if there's an insurance agent who's listening to this webcast, do they have to go through the declination process, or can they waive that and go directly to the surplus lines market?
It's something.
Because I think I remember the department putting them on an export list or something that said you don't have to do the declinations to get someone to where they need to be.
They are on the export list.
Okay, so that makes it easier for the insurance producer to try to help their consumer client into the private market if that's suitable for them.
Correct. They are I believe they were put on the export list in 2013 or 2014.
Okay.
The year is.
Now, does that mean with the information you're going to put on the website, one of the features that some insurance agents like about the NFIP is that there's an agent locator. Are you going to try to put that type of information on the department's web presence for the private sector as well?
What we have listed on is the name of their organization, their phone number, their address, their webpage.
Okay.
So the consumer should be able to find somebody that can help them with the information we have. And we also are looking for any agents out there, as we post the information, if any of the agents out there happen to see that, oh wait, I'm not on there, let us know.
Okay, good.
Let us know.
Because I think consumer access to markets is always one of the issues, and sometimes consumers don't know that there's a possibility until they talk to their agent. But of course, if the agent doesn't know it either, then it makes it harder for you to link all the forces together.
Absolutely, and we'll appreciate anything we can to link all the forces
Okay.
together.
Now, one of the other things that comes up during the property casualty arena is the Federal Insurance Office, or FIO.
Okay.
And that was created by Congress with the passage of the Dodd-Frank Act, and one of their mandates, as I understand it, is to look at state regulatory system and decide if there are ways that the federal government could do it better, or to nudge the states along in trying to develop its own policy. And I remember noting that the commissioner was appointed to a NAIC outreach or constituent committee or stakeholder group connected with that FIO. Are there any property casualty issues going on at the national level that the commissioner is involved in, or anything of a regulatory area that she's looking at with regards to property casualty?
You know, I think with the new role that the commissioner is taking on, it's going to give her the ability to really delve into the property and casualty world, to understand some of the best practices that are going on throughout the entire United States, potentially bringing them back to the state of Pennsylvania. So, you know, I would say that she is going to be learning in the new role of the position.
Okay.
Did that answer?
Well, kind of. I didn't know if I was able to glean anything from her involvement with the Federal Insurance Office in terms of regulatory priorities that the federal government is looking at that could come back up the pipeline to Pennsylvania.
I don't know that answer.
You know, maybe we should have her on the program. I can ask her. What do you think? I know you're not going to speak for her appointment scheduler, right? Okay, now one of the other things, though, and this gets back to strictly Pennsylvania,
Sure.
is auto insurance.
Yeah.
As you may know, there was a proposal that passed the Senate that would double the thresholds for auto insurance. So instead of collision at $5,000, it would be $10,000.
The property damage?
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, increase the liability threshold as well.
Sure.
Now, that passed the Senate, went over to the House. Does the insurance department have a position on that?
I believe the position that we have represented is that we are observing the position.
Okay.
I don't have a better answer than that.
Okay. Because my understanding is that the House Transportation Committee is going to have a hearing sometime soon to look at it. And of course, I always, as a policy wonk, I always want to kind of know what everybody's thinking.
Sure.
That one of the things, though, with your outreach,
Yeah.
in terms of how you communicate to the public,
Sure.
what's the best way?
What is the best way for me to communicate with the public?
Yes.
In regards to like the through my stakeholders is one way.
That's one way, right?
That's one way.
But in terms of you direct to the consumer, direct to the public?
I tell you, what I've been doing to really get myself out to the public is partnering with the Department of Banking and Securities, the Department of Education, the Department of Aging, trying to work collaboratively as a group, because each of those organizations have outreach to people. So, and a lot of the, unfortunately, you know, one of the things that I've learned is, and I learned this from my own experience that I've had at my home, is that not many people know the Pennsylvania Insurance Department exists. So by partnering with education, aging, finance, or banking and securities, it is allowing me to reach more and more consumers that way. Department of Education was kind enough to assist me with outreach to teachers so that I could email them to let them know that I was available to speak to classes. It was wonderful.
Well, have you spoken to?
I have. I've been to a couple schools.
How did that go? Did the kids respond to your message, and did they seem to grasp the insurance concept you're trying to present to them?
The kids actually grasped the concept more than I thought they would. And I've actually done school outreach in my prior role. So I knew that they all know flow. They all know flow, but the kids really.
So that's where you got that question. Before.
Exactly,
Okay,
it's exactly where I got.
know.
I got it from all the third and fourth graders that I used to speak to. But you know, the students do understand. There is a need for students to have better insurance education. A lot of the teachers are doing their best. a lot of their teachers are doing their best to create education for students. So they're Googling the information. So one of my roles is to try to create something that they can use, which is working with the Department of Education. The kids do really know it, and they did pay attention.
Well, are you developing some modules, some educational modules?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that way you're giving the teachers the ability to take your pre-packaged
Correct.
and then adapt it to the particular marketplace or region that their school district is in.
Absolutely.
Now, is that directed towards secondary, elementary, middle?
As of right now, it's high school.
High school, okay.
High school.
And that makes sense.
Kids that are getting
because
ready to
they're
drive.
Getting ready to drive.
Now, I have had the privilege of working with, third graders, fourth graders, fifth graders, sixth graders. They also understand the concepts. But we're really focusing right now on high school, because those are the folks who are going to be buying the insurance. Those are the folks who are going to be driving. They're the ones that may be leaving home as soon as they graduate to start their job or to go to school. So they're really the market that we're trying to work on now. Eventually, maybe I can get back to those elementary kids. But for right now, high school is where I am. And even college. I believe that there's a large opportunity at the college level for us to help educate, because a lot of those kids, they would also need assistance with health insurance, because at some point when they graduate, they're going to be leaving mom and dad's policy. Renter's insurance. When they get their first apartment, not many people talk about renter's insurance, so they think the building owner is covering their stuff. Auto insurance. It's not a very good thing to drive without auto insurance. It's illegal. So that's where we're going.
Okay. Although when it comes to the curriculum for, say, the high school level,
Yeah.
I've seen some curricula that involve financial literacy,
Right.
but they don't mention the word insurance. It's
Right.
all about how to balance a checkbook.
Mhm.
Well, not that anybody uses a checkbook anymore, but is it like are you trying to get them to incorporate and understanding insurance into the existing financial literacy curriculum, or just creating kind of a stand-alone?
Right now, the way I look at insurance is it's a foundation. You can have the financial security and you own a home and you have something horribly happen with your home. If you don't have insurance, you just lost your home. Your health, you can be you can make all the money you want, but if you're unhealthy and you can't afford to get yourself taken care of because you don't have insurance, it's so I really do look at it as ultimately working together. Right now, what we're working on is creating the auto insurance materials. My dream scenario, I've been here for 6 months, so I haven't been able to, have all of my dreams come true yet. But my dream would be that we'd actually have something that is complete financial literacy to include insurance. Where I could work with the banking and securities department to try to figure out how can we work together to create something that the teachers can look at and go, here it is. This is how you balance your checkbook. And this is how you do insurance too at the same time. So.
And, well, first of all, even though you've only been on that job 6 months, you've
Yeah.
had at least 20, 25 years of training that leads you to
A little
develop this job.
a little bit, absolutely
So,
correct.
But the thing about the curriculum, though, first of all, I think having an interdepartmental approach is good, where the banking department and the insurance department are trying to help customers understand financial vehicles such as insurance. But the other departments, at least up to this point, have been somewhat shy about including insurance. So am I to understand that they're more receptive perhaps than they've been in the past? That they want to work with you to come up with something that's going to help consumers understand how insurance works?
It's a great question, and I'll tell you what, just yesterday, I was at a meeting with banking and securities with folks from AARP that help seniors out with annuities. I walked away from that meeting understanding that I need to update some of the educational materials that we have for seniors with red flags, and this is what an annuity is, and this is how an annuity works. So when you start branching out with little things like that, I think it starts to create an environment of cooperation. It's government that works.
Okay.
Right now I'm also going to be working with the Department of Aging with their Apprise program because they have that insurance section. Well, we're going to work together with them. We've already sat through some of the training that they work on, and we're going to participate with them. So I do feel, as the liaison, one of my roles was to make sure that all of our organizations, banking, security, education, I know I'm missing some, are working together to try to create something that's fantastic. I'm also part of a cybersecurity team, and that is bringing in all of the state agencies, because if you go online and try to find information about cybersecurity, it's kind of everywhere. So you look at it going, well, as a group, can we create a message to all consumers that doesn't need to be, I went to aging, they said this, I went to banking security, they said this is cybersecurity. We can create something together.
But should I also assume that in that approach, that in addition to working it out with the departments, that you are also involving the other entities too? For example, with the price, aging may give advice, but they shouldn't give the level of advice that would cross the line into what an insurance agent
Correct. We
should
can't do that. Right.
And the question is, does a prize know that? And I would assume that they do, but
Sitting through the training that I've seen them working on, yes, they know that.
okay. And likewise with the others you've spoken to, hopefully with annuities you would involve some agents that sell annuities. Because one of the things that I find, this is me speaking personally,
Sure.
is that I find that consumers oftentimes don't really know the questions to ask their broker.
Right.
And is that an emphasis of the department to try to help people understand how they should approach the subject, and really how to communicate the broker, understand the terms, and to know how to keep the broker on his or her toes?
Correct.
To make sure that the person's needs are being met. So is that a stretch, or is that?
That's not a stretch. No,
Okay.
it's helping it's educating consumers to understand how things work,
Okay.
how the annuity works.
Now, here's a question for you.
Sure.
Yesterday there was a hearing on the House on long-term care insurance partnerships.
Sure.
And this is not a long-term care insurance show, so everybody who's watching, just relax and enjoy. But the department testified and talked about trying to educate consumers about long-term care insurance.
Sure.
It's one of the areas
Yeah.
that people need to know a little bit more about.
Mhm.
So I guess my question, and this is a hard question, I apologize, but
That's okay.
how's the department going to do that with no real budget? The department, if it's like other state agencies, has limited resources, has a huge responsibility. How is the department going to leverage the message to get out to people if there are budgetary constraints?
Are you talking about the creation of the materials or getting the materials out to the masses?
Getting the materials out to the masses.
No, it's a great question, Vince, and that's one of the things that we're going to continue to learn, adapt, and improve on. As I had said earlier today, part of my mission is to get the consumers to know we exist. So that is all part of us trying to educate those consumers. So do I have the answer to your question yet? No. I know that we will have fantastic materials, because I've seen a lot of them, that will assist consumers to understand long-term care insurance. I know that we will be reaching out to the Department of Aging. We will be reaching out to different organizations. We'll be talking to folks like you to let them know that we are trying to communicate that. For me, switching over to flooding real quick, I've spent a good part of today reaching out to different agencies that we're aware of, different to let them know this is what we're doing, just to kind of loop people in. This would be one of those things where I'd want to include you as part of my teammate to be educating consumers. But those are things right now that we're working through.
Well, and I'm honored to be part of your team, but I assume the team also includes everyone who's watching this broadcast.
Absolutely does.
Now, but the question that kind of works around budget, though, I guess I'm getting the feeling that you're looking more at free media and people spreading the word versus a paid advertising campaign. Because, of course, with the CHIP program, now I know it's no longer housed with the insurance department, but with the CHIP program, of course, you had billboards, you had slick TV spots, you had all those wonderful vehicles
Sure.
to get a message out. And my concern is that with this consumer education liaison function that you have, that the department may need more resources to do that.
Well, that's one of the things that we need to kind of sit back, understand, because in the history of the Pennsylvania Insurance Department, are you familiar with us doing any of those things?
Well, sporadically. Under Governor Rundell, there was an intensive ad
Right.
campaign to seniors about the need to take care of themselves with
Sure.
long-term care.
But it was sporadically.
It was sporadic. It was
Yeah.
not a consistent outreach.
So that's where, when you look at it in regards to Governor Rendell, they had a consumer liaison at that time, and they were able to create those things. Unfortunately, over the past couple of years, for just for reasons that are out of all of our controls, they didn't have that. So bringing it back, you're kind of starting fresh anew. Are we today where we want to be in regards to communicating to all the folks out there? Not yet, but part of me being here today is to let folks know that I am here, that it will be coming.
And to come up with innovative ways to try to get the
Absolutely.
message out. Now, another part of budget is staff.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, I know there's a perception out in the larger world that government may have too many staff people, but I took the liberty of researching before our program today to recognize that the insurance department staff has been cut by at least 1/4 over the past several years. Now, Pennsylvania has I think the 5th largest insurance market in the United States, the 12th largest insurance market in the world.
Yeah.
So what's the department doing to make up those staff deficiencies? Is there an effort to hire more people?
Well,
Are there vacancies?
there are vacancies, and actually, if folks are out there are looking for a job opportunity, if you know somebody that's looking for a job opportunity, the insurance department is hiring. Most of the jobs at the insurance department are filled through the State Civil Service Commission. For more information, you can look at www.scsc.pa.gov or call 717-783-3058. The Bureau of State Employment handles non-civil service openings. For an application, go to www.employment.pa.gov. So we are hiring.
At the risk of repetition, would you mind repeating those?
A little bit faster?
Of course. I was going to say go more slowly, and you would say, the address is.
All right, so I'm going to just read from the sheet
Please,
of paper
if you
here.
would.
So most of the jobs at the insurance department are filled through the State Civil Service Commission. Information about current test announcements and application process is available on the Commission's website at www.scsc.pa.gov or by calling 717-783-3058. The Bureau of State Employment handles non-civil service openings. For application, go to www.employment.pa.gov, and we do have openings, so please do apply.
Their operators are standing by.
Absolutely.
Now, there is one other thing I wanted to run by you.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania used to have a number of risk management programs at the college level.
Okay.
And that's been winnowed a bit, although I understand that Temple University has a very vibrant program, and there may be others too. Is the department working with colleges and universities to help them incorporate some type of risk management? And there's two parts of that. One is it's good to know,
Yeah.
but secondly, a lot of people end up in the insurance business just because their family is involved in it, or because they stumbled into it or something, versus risk management that helps prepare the professionals to move into that industry, and of course possibly into civil service positions with the insurance department. So what are you doing to help those institutions of higher learning begin to focus a little more on risk management training or insurance training to their students?
Well, I tell you, I'm one of those folks. When I graduated from Penn State, I wasn't expecting to go into insurance. I kind of fell into insurance, and then I got good at insurance, and I stayed in insurance and made a career out of it. It's 17 years ago. That's a long time ago. But to answer your question, we have begun working towards improving those things. It is absolutely something that needs to be done, because that's how we really can get a lot of folks into our door, those college folks that are going for insurance degrees or risk management. So where we are today, I'm not 100% sure, but I know that we're working to be better than what we were yesterday.
Well, in terms of the department's website, is the department considering the possibility of putting a career link on their website that would list vacancies both within the department and also links to the various risk management programs that universities have? That might give those at least another avenue to pursue. And for all I know, there's email risk management training that some of the universities do on a remote basis that aren't classroom based. But again, I don't know that.
That's something that I'll take back.
Okay.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
And should that germinate, maybe that's the subject for another program. Who knows?
Absolutely.
Well, I know we're getting near the end of our time. The rather large person with the hook has not appeared yet from the sidebar. But I'd like to know, are there any closing thoughts? What would you like this group of listeners or watchers, what would you like the takeaway to be from the fact that they got to meet you today?
Sure. There are a couple things. First off, I want to make sure that everybody knows that we're here. That we do have our webpage at www.insurance.pa.gov, that we do have materials available that could be helpful to you, that we are on Facebook, that we are on Twitter. If there are events coming up that you would like somebody from the Department of Insurance to participate in, let me know. Reach out to me. I'll be happy to reach out to Vince or reach out to Ron, but let us know. I want to make sure that we are working collaboratively as we do go forward, because like I said, as the liaison, I believe it is my job to work with the groups to bring everybody together to create the education. Be sure when you're checking out our website that we do list out consumer alerts. We do have our Did You Know? We're trying to create educational opportunities for folks to learn from things that maybe some consumers have experienced in the past, because that's a lot of times where our consumer alerts could come from experiences that folks have had, and we want to educate them on, well, this is what happened, this is how you improve it. And check out our Did You Knows. So what else do you have for me, Vince?
Well, I wanted to ask if you would be receptive to folks contacting you directly if they have a question or something comes up based on our conversation today.
They can absolutely email me. It's probably the easiest way that I would, at dbuono@pa.gov.
Okay, what was that again?
D as in David, B as in boy, UONO@pa.gov.
No, I'm not trying to be the Artful Dodger here, but
I
want to make sure that people
look at you.
Write it down. Okay.
They have to do that. And you know what? The D's and the B's always sound the same.
Well, I have to tell you, this has been great. I think the time has just absolutely fled by, and a good conversation, and I very much appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. I do appreciate it. Were there any questions from the folks out there? Okay.
Now, I would tell you that I personally enjoyed being with you today, and I echo what Dave said, that it's really great to be before the inaugural offering of the PAMIC Panel series. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. And of course, our presenter today has given a lot of thought to basically how to frame a proper educational message, not only directly to you as consumers, but also to give you resources so that you can kind of help pass the word. I would encourage you to again look at PAMIC as a primary resource, because the department's information will be disseminated through PAMIC, through emails, through direct contact, through access to the website, in addition to the direct work that Dave's doing from the insurance department. Now, I will tell you that if you know someone that couldn't be with us today, you might wish to suggest that they go to the PAMIC Live YouTube page, and they can kind of catch up on things. Now, our next broadcast will be March 31st, 2016, starting at 2 p.m. Now, that's going to be a fascinating conversation, because it's going to talk about the state of the Commonwealth's budget. And before anybody says, which budget is that? Is it the rest of this year's budget or next year's budget? I can simply say, stay tuned, because I think you will find it to be an absolutely stimulating and lively conversation. And with that, I want to thank you very much.